Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first afternoon session. I hope you enjoyed lunch. I hear there was a little bit of a shortage of bread, so I'm sorry if you didn't get enough sourdough today, but there'll be some leftovers. So welcome to the lightning talk session. Today we'll be hearing from 6 esteemed UC Berkeley alumni who have all taken a unique path in their career. But before we get started on the lightning talks, I just want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. We have General Motors here, NVIDIA, Uber, Google, Berkeley Engineering, Berkeley WICSE, Citrus Institute, Graduate Assembly, and Intel. So there's actually a ton of tables outside, so I encourage you to stop by, talk with our sponsors. They have a lot of interesting stories, opportunities, so I definitely encourage that. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. So Dr. Marti Hearst is a current professor here at Berkeley in the School of Informatics and WICSE. Furthermore, she received her Bachelor's of Science, MS, and PhD here in Computer Science at UC Berkeley. Dr. Hearst currently works on user interfaces for search engines, information visualization, and natural language processing.
Thanks, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I was asked to give a 7-minute technical talk, but at WICSE anniversary, it kind of seemed like maybe it should sort of be an overview or highlights. And so I tried to think about what would be relevant to people here. So I thought to do past, present, and future really, really fast and talk about some of the people along the way. So when I was in graduate school, I worked with both Professor Mike Stonebreaker and Robert Walensky, and I was also an intern at Xerox PARC, which was a good idea since a lot of what I was doing wasn't really happening here at the time. So I'm just going to highlight one thing I did during my PhD dissertation. So imagine you had a sentence like this. The report stated an item could not be counted as a bread that was not enriched or whole grain, but could credit a condiment such as pickle relish as a vegetable. It's kind of a weird sentence. This comes from something that happened under the Reagan era where they were trying to define ketchup as a vegetable. So there was actually this problem in natural language processing where you wanted to build a lexicon, where you wanted to find what is a what. You want to find a whole giant list of things that are kinds of things. So something that I noticed is that this sentence structure would let you know automatically extract that pickle relish is a kind of condiment. By noticing this sort of structure of a noun phrase followed by the word such as followed by pickle relish, you put it all together and you could say that pickle relish is a kind of condiment. So this seems really simple the way I've stated it, and kind of part of the magic was that I found these very simple patterns that you could extract these relations from automatically from text. But at the time, this was actually before the web. This was around 92, 3, and so it was a really, really weird idea. Nonetheless, I presented this idea in my qualifying exam. I passed it. Everybody thought it was really weird. They didn't really say much of anything, so I didn't know what to take from that. I presented it as a paper at a conference. It was accepted at the conference. Nobody really said much of anything. It was a very odd thing. This is one of my first papers, and I didn't know what to take away from that. Kind of nobody really responded one way or the other. No one knew what to make of it. So this is kind of a lesson for everyone. Sometimes you're ahead of your time, and nobody knows what to say. So because there wasn't very much text available online at the time, and because kind of nobody knew what to make of this work, I didn't even put it in my dissertation. But it's like really important work. It's a regular thing that people put in textbooks and teach all the time, and it's used by industry. It's really important. So that's just something to keep in mind. I didn't call it this, but that's what it's called now. So it's just, you don't always know what you've done. It's one lesson, and so, but sometimes, move on and do the next thing. Something else, so that was for my dissertation. Later, I went to Xerox PARC as a member of the research staff, and a lot of my focus in my dissertation after that was on search user interfaces and doing search engines. And again, when I was a graduate student, nobody thought about search interfaces. Nobody really thought much about search engines. That was all in the library school. In the libraries at the time, the search interface was typing some arcane command and not getting anything back. And user interfaces weren't really taught at Berkeley at the time, which is why I hung out at Xerox PARC. But then I worked on early search user interfaces and eventually wrote the first academic book on the topic. And when I came back and became a professor, developed something called faceted navigation, or faceted, that I took the term from library science, but made these interfaces, which are now, well, at least for a long time, were what is basically used for e-commerce sites, where you see these sort of hints about where to go next. And now if you shop, at Amazon and so on, you see this kind of interface that makes it easy to select from a large number of like items. This is actually going by the wayside now as a kind of automated estimation of what you're going to do based on your click stream is taking over from that. But I actually, during my dissertation, developed visualizations for search interfaces. That's actually never really panned out. So that was another idea that I thought was going to be really great. But the lesson from that is sometimes you're ahead of your time and it's not the right thing to do. And doing a lot of studies and so on eventually shows that. And then you write a chapter in your book saying visualization doesn't work for interfaces. And then your very senior colleague has a very long extended conversation with you online saying, it sounds like your chapter's saying visualization doesn't work for search. And you're saying, that's kind of what I'm saying. And after a long extended back and forth, he eventually agrees with you and you can go ahead and write your book. So I worked with a lot of people. The great thing about being a professor is you get to work with all these young people and it keeps you young even when you're not. So here are some great people that I worked with, master's students and PhD students and undergraduates, that's a bunch of each, and postdocs. And so I also had a project with a PhD student here, Melody Ivory, who worked on using automated metrics to automatically improve website design, and Rashmi Sinha, who went on to found SlideShare and make a lot of money, so she doesn't talk to me anymore. And so another big project was the biotech search engine, which was trying to bring bioscience together with search and search interfaces. So I think the biggest contribution there was introducing human-centered computing, human-centered design to biologists. And one of the big things we did, which again wasn't really that brilliant, but was saying we should bring the images and the captions up into the search engine, which is now kind of a standard thing to do. And again, a lot of great people worked on that, postdocs and undergrads and PhD students who went on to do great things. And so now I'm professor still, and I'm currently working on HCI and information visualization. So I like this cool graph I made about how visualization is a mashup of science, design, stats, psychology, and art. And what I'm really focusing on is how to teach this, because I think it's difficult to teach a mashup like this. I first started in '98, one of the first classes in the country, if not the world, in it, and when it was sort of a lark, and now it's become like big business, and I'm trying to think about how do you teach this to students and really make it a practice using active peer learning. And now I led a panel, or co-organized a panel at the major conference, and then my students are publishing, master's students are publishing in the, based on this new teaching method in this major conference, and we had a pedagogy workshop. Currently working in the area, how am I doing on time? I can't see the timer, oh well. 3 minutes left, okay, cool. Some recent work has been in the digital humanities, including working with some students, including a student in the media studies area of School of Education on poetry and how do we use the latest in statistical NLP to help writers create more figurative language. And this is a little bit kind of in the weeds, but I kind of call this, what would Shakespeare do? So say you're trying to write some poetry and you have the word I and the word sun, and you want to sort of say, what words sit at the intersection of the I and the sun? Here's sort of a picture, like pictures, here are pictures that are at the intersection of I and sun. What's a word at the intersection of the I and the sun? What would Shakespeare do? Shakespeare would say the word orb. So how can I help you come up with that word? So that was like the goal of this project, which is using, for those who know Word2Vec and embeddings and all that in NLP, which I assume most people here don't, we use this intersection model, and I don't have time to explain it, but we kind of come up with this word between surrendering and storm, like the word barrage. We tested it with people. So you can sort of see there's this theme of combining natural language processing and user interfaces and search in my work. We're interested in how do we transform our understanding of news, which is important today. This is with a current student, Philippe Laban, where the idea here is that we're inundated with news, but so how do we make large just piles of news into stories, in more coherent stories, and then analyze them more closely, but still in summary form, but with clarifying, not simplifying, not oversimplifying. And that's, again, visualization and natural language processing and search. Another student, Katie, we're looking at trying to improve teaching and learning using natural language processing, which takes me to my future work. What I'm really passionate about today is with this concern about automation changing jobs, and at the same time changes happening to teaching and learning with a lot of learning happening online. I want to know if we can transform how we learn because things are changing faster than they have in the past. Because in the past, the industrial age replaced muscles with machines. The AI age is replacing minds with machines. So I think that we need to find fundamentally new ways to teach and learn that make people more effective and more efficient, make learning somehow, people feel like they are more able to learn than they are today. So should AI be improving learning more than it has to date? That's kind of my current driving research question. Although elections are important too. I'm not working on that. So thanks for your attention.